Okay, so I'm scrolling Instagram one Tuesday afternoon and I get a DM from a woman I have never seen in my life asking me, and I quote, "Does the gown run narrow through the hips or is the sizing generous?" And I am sitting here like, what gown? So I click her profile and she's tagged a resale listing. And I click the listing. And there, professionally photographed $3,800 marked sold, is my wedding dress. My custom silk wedding dress that I paid for with my own money and had been storing at my mom's house. My mother had gone into my old bedroom, taken the dress out of its garment bag, photographed it from 4 angles, and sold it online while I was at work, to pay for my sister's honeymoon. Now before you ask, no. She did not tell me. She did not ask me. She did not even leave a note. But here's what she also didn't know. My designer had written a resale clause into my original contract. No resale without my written consent. And without that consent, the buyer, who was completely innocent and lovely about the whole thing, was owed a full refund. I gave her what she needed. The money reversed. The resort booking canceled. And my sister, who had already checked her bags, found out at the airport. I'm keeping this one short because the story tells itself. My name's Mara. Stay for all of it. I live in a mid-sized city in the Midwest. I work in marketing, and I am getting married in the fall to a man named Joel who is, at this point, genuinely the most patient human being I have ever encountered in my life. Some background on my family before I get to the main event. My mother, I'll call her Diane, is what I would describe as a selectively functional parent. She was present when I was a kid, genuinely loving in her way, but she has always had a hierarchy and I have always known my place in it. That place is below my older sister Kayla, who is 33, recently married, and has occupied the top position in my mother's priorities for as long as I can remember. I am not bitter about this in the screaming into a pillow way anymore. I've processed it. I've made peace with it. I just know how the room is arranged. Kayla got married in April. Her husband is a decent guy named Trevor, and the wedding was lovely, and I was genuinely happy for her. What I was less enthused about was the growing awareness, in the months leading up to the wedding, that my mother was routing significant financial resources toward Kayla's life in ways that were creative. I didn't say anything. I never say anything. I am the easy one. I have always been the easy one. That was apparently a mistake. My wedding dress was a custom silk gown that I had commissioned from a designer named Priya about 10 months ago. I had saved specifically for this dress. 2 years of setting aside money from every paycheck because I had a very specific vision and I knew that vision was going to cost real money. The final price was $3,800. Every dollar came from my own account. The dress required 4 fittings. I drove 40 minutes each way to Priya's studio 4 times. I cried the first time I put it on fully assembled because it was exactly what I had been picturing for years. Exactly. The silk, the structure, the back detail, all of it. I had been storing it at my mom's house temporarily because my apartment doesn't have appropriate climate-controlled closet space for a silk garment and my mother had offered before any of this drama existed. She'd been enthusiastic about storing it, actually. Said she liked having it there. Said it felt special. I now understand she was doing inventory. The Instagram DM came on a random Tuesday afternoon in May. A woman named Heather, profile full of garden party photos and golden retriever pictures, messaged me asking if the gown ran narrow through the hips, or if the sizing was generous. She mentioned she'd seen it listed on the Luxe Closet, a high-end resale platform I had never personally used. I want to tell you I had some kind of immediate dramatic reaction. I didn't. I just went very still. I opened the resale platform. I searched. I found the listing within about 30 seconds. My dress. My Priya-made, custom-fitted, individually photographed dress. Listed for $3,800. Marked sold. The seller username was Diane Martin 64. My mother's name is Diane Martin. She was born in 1964. I sat with that for about a minute. Then I called her. She answered on the 3rd ring with the complete normalcy of someone who was not expecting any consequences. I said, "Did you list my wedding dress on a resale site?" She said, "Mara, I was going to talk to you about it." I said, "Did you sell it?" She said, "It was just sitting there and Kayla needed the deposit for the resort." I said, "You sold my wedding dress to pay for Kayla's honeymoon." She said, "I was going to replace it." I said, "With what? You don't have $3,800. She said my name in the tone that means she thinks the conversation should be over. I hung up. Here's the thing I then remembered that changed everything. When I had commissioned the dress, Priya had included something in her standard design contract that I had read, signed, and then filed away and mostly forgotten about. It was a resale authenticity clause. It stated, in plain language, that any resale of a custom commission required the written, signed consent of the original client, me. Without that consent, the transaction was considered unauthorized, and the buyer was entitled to a full refund from the seller, with the gown to be returned to the original owner. Priya had told me about the clause when I signed the contract. She'd said she'd been burned once by a client who sold a commissioned piece without her knowledge, and it had caused issues with her brand attribution. She'd added the clause to protect her design integrity. It also, as it turned out, protected me. I pulled my contract copy from my email. I called Priya and explained what had happened. She was audibly horrified and immediately confirmed she'd provide any documentation needed. Then I messaged Heather. I want to be clear about this. Heather was completely innocent. She had bought a dress off a legitimate resale platform from a listing that appeared normal. She had no idea she was the unwitting buyer of stolen property. I told her everything honestly, that my mother had listed the dress without my knowledge, that it had been commissioned in my name, and that under the terms of the original contract, she was entitled to a full refund. I told her exactly how to file it with the platform. Heather was incredibly gracious about the whole thing. She said she was sorry this had happened to me, and that she would absolutely file the refund claim. She did it within the hour. Now here is the timing that I could not have engineered if I tried. My sister Kayla had used the $3,800 from the dress sale to book their honeymoon package. 14 nights at a resort in Santorini, booked through a travel site that processed payment via the same account the resale money had landed in. When Heather's refund processed and the funds reversed out of my mother's account, the payment for the resort failed. The resort sent a cancellation notification. Kayla and Trevor had already checked their bags at the airport. I know this because Kayla called me. Not to apologize. Not to explain. She called me screaming from the terminal, genuinely furious, demanding to know why the resort was saying the booking was canceled. I let her say everything she needed to say. Then I said, my dress had a resale clause in the original contract. Mom didn't read it. I activated it. The refund reversed the funds. The resort booking was linked to those funds. I'm sorry your trip got canceled, she said. You did this on purpose. I said, Mom sold my wedding dress on purpose. I just read the paperwork. She called me a word I am choosing not to include here. I said, have a good night, Kayla, and I hung up. My dress is back. Heather kept her platform refund. Priya sent me a voice message when she heard the outcome, and said she was glad the clause had worked the way she'd intended. My mother has called me 5 times. I've answered once, long enough to hear her say she was trying to help the family, at which point I told her that selling my belongings without my consent was not helping the family, and that I'd talk to her when she was ready to actually apologize for what she did rather than for how it made me feel. I haven't heard back. Joel, when I told him the full story, was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, so you just read the contract? I said, I just read the contract. He said, I feel like I need to just always be honest with you about everything always. He's not wrong. We're still getting married in the fall. The dress fits perfectly. I've moved it to a climate-controlled storage unit that only I have the key to. Some lessons you only have to learn once. Kayla and Trevor rebooked a shorter version of the trip out of pocket and are apparently still going to Santorini, just for fewer nights and at a different resort. I heard this from my dad, who is a good man and had no idea any of this was happening until after. Someone asked if I feel bad about Heather losing out on the dress. Heather got a full refund and was gracious and kind throughout the whole process. She messaged me after it was settled to say she hoped I had a beautiful wedding. I sent her a thank you note and the name of another designer who does similar work. She is fine. Someone asked if my mom ever acknowledged that the dress wasn't hers to sell. Not in those words. She has said, I thought it would work out, and I didn't think you'd react like this. Which are 2 of the least satisfying responses to selling someone's belongings without their knowledge that I have ever heard. Someone asked what the lesson is. Read your contracts. Keep your receipts. And maybe don't store valuable things at your mother's house if your mother is Diane.